let's get into what's happening in the nation's capital, where apparently only boring, busybody leftists are allowed to have an opinion. Um, it is the day for sentencing arguments for Tamara Lich and Chris Barber, two of the leaders of the Freedom Convoy, the anti-mandate, entirely peaceful grassroots movement to defend the charter rights of Canadians against federal government overreach. I think it was the single largest human rights demonstration in modern Canadian history. Crime actually went down in the nation's capital while they were there. In fact, the only violence was that committed by the police against demonstrators and journalists like our Alexa Lavoie. The Crown is asking for 7 years for Tamara Lich for non-violent mischief. It's outrageous.
Insane.
It would be precedent setting. And 8 years for Chris, I guess, because he did some honking. So that's an additional year. And they want his livelihood destroyed. They want to leave him both incarcerated, but also his family destitute. So collective punishment there by crushing Big Red, the iconic truck of the convoy, which is his daily business vehicle.
His livelihood. It's his livelihood.
They want it gone. So Ezra Levant, our intrepid commander, is in the courtroom. He's live tweeting. From what I understand, court is on break right now until I believe 12:30 Mountain. You can follow along on his tweets on rebelnews.com, but also on his X account, which is Ezra Levant. But he's got a video that he filmed before court we can show right now. Oh, it's the truck.
Itself is used, but the apparatus on the back is. That's what he's doing.
So it's private property, so
Oh, sorry.
We absolutely respect you, and we are not parking here, we're driving through, but it is not private property.
it is. The Ministry of Attorney General owns the property, and
not
they do
private,
not want
that's
people
government.
driving through. They don't want people driving through the fire
Is that
road.
what they told you?
Yes,
Well, that car's there.
and that's why I just wrote the plate down. So I'm going to make sure that car is moved as well. But if you could please advise me that you want to walk when you're driving out
I'm going to tell
public
him,
street.
keep doing loops. Keep doing loops. Yeah, and I'll be here in case there's any legal fracas. We're in the right place if there's any legal problems. My name is Ezra Levant.
Hello.
Thanks, my friend. Yeah, do. So we're doing loops today, but that's just how it is on a public street, in a public place, on a
This
public.
isn't a public street. I'll call you right back.
It just is, and we're just going to keep doing. Look at all the appearance there. Absolutely no problem. We're going to keep doing that loop again and again and again. And there's no reason for Ottawa Police to make a new issue where there is none.
I'm sorry, you said your name is.
My name is Ezra.
Yeah.
E-Z-R-A.
Yep.
My last name is
Yep. Yep.
L-E-V-A-N-T.
Okay. And your date of birth?
I'll write it down. I don't want to say it
Sure,
on
yeah,
camera when
sure.
these folks are here. Thanks.
Let's give you actually.
Ottawa police are maintaining that reputation of being some of the worst police in the entire country. The grandma stompers of the Ottawa police are back in action. She told Ezra that the public drop-off at the courthouse is private property. It is absolutely not.
Okay, officer, tell us who owns it then. Tell us who owns it then, like the person that owns it. No, this is a perfect example of the Ottawa police practicing make it up as you go law enforcement.
Yeah.
They just made that up. You guys, you just saw an Ottawa police officer make up a rule to suit her agenda right there. And then she gets out her little book and she flips out, what is your name? What is your date of birth? You know what? That's like a veiled threat. I'm going to look you up after. Is she going to find out? She's going to Google that name and go, oh God.
Yeah. Oh, I'm dealing with someone who was a lawyer. Oh, oops.
who runs the biggest independent media outlet in the entire country? Oops.
Who started
Oops.
Canada's largest civil liberties legal charity, the Democracy Fund?
Oops.
Oopsie doodle. And the Democracy Fund defended plenty of people from the bad policing at the hands of the Ottawa police.
That is
Oopsie daisy.
Oopsie daisy. Oh yeah, she's gonna learn. This is an FAFO moment for her. She's gonna
Yeah.
Google that name and go, oh no. Because there are people like Ezra in the world who know that a public drop-off is not private property. Of course, we all know this, but God bless Ezra for just digging in that moment and being like,
Well,
actually,
just saying, like, who told you that? Who told you?
Seriously. Oh,
How
that
do
woman.
you not know what the trespass law is as a police officer?
But truly, somebody that doesn't know that, what can they be trusted with? You gonna trust this woman to deal with your break and enter? You gonna trust this woman to deal with the Hamas freaks parading in the streets of Canada every day? We're gonna trust this woman? This is why trust in policing has gone down the toilet in Canada. Exactly this reason. It's such a great example, and good for Ezra.
You
Good
know
for
what?
Ezra
When
for
I
being
see
here.
this, I'm like, maybe they weren't wrong to say that the Ottawa police didn't have the tools to deal with the Freedom Convoy, because the tool you might need is a brain in your head.
It's
And
common
that lady,
sense, yeah.
she doesn't have one.
Yeah.
Um,
No. And she answers her phone right in the middle. Hello? Hello?
I don't even think that was real.
I'm gonna
By
have
the
to
way. I think that
Listen,
was like a colleague, like dialing or saying, "Listen, sister, you gotta go.
you
No,
do you
step
know
away from this
on
engagement with this man."
on the other end of the phone, on the other end of her phone is her colleague going, that's Ezra. Whoa, don't stop what you're saying. Don't.
Stop what you're doing.
And then she says, I'm gonna have to call you back. And then flips open her little notepad, like, oh lady.
Yeah.
Oh, lady, I do believe you stepped in it in that moment. You did
Yeah,
give
didn't
Canada a
didn't
good
look
view.
didn't look great. Didn't look great.
Well,
Speaking
no.
of not looking great, Alexa Lavoie out there talking to Ottawa residents who told her that Chris Barber and Tamara Lich were terrorists.
Can I just ask quickly, what did you think of the Freedom Convoy?
I think it was horrendous, right? I mean, these were terrorists causing grief to
Terrorists.
all of the
Grief.
residents of Ottawa. Frankly, embarrassing
Grief.
Canadians like ourselves, embarrassing Albertans like ourselves.
Oh, no,
wish they
no.
never did that.
Shut
and
up.
I really do hope that they get what they deserve in court. I think it was ridiculous. Yeah.
Crown is asking 8 years. Do you think
Anyway,
it's
so
enough?
those are my. I think whatever the Crown asks for, the judicial system should be allowed to run. I think it's absolutely ridiculous when politicians, like Trump is doing in the U.S., right, firing people in the judicial system. That's unacceptable. So Poilievre and his some of the Poilievre, first of all, not even as an MP right now, making comments that are contrary to what the judicial system is trying to do, completely inappropriate. We don't need politicians. They shouldn't be above the law. They shouldn't have any jurisdiction over the law. And you have to let the Crown prosecutors do their job. They're the experts in this. But like I said, terrorists deserve to go to jail, and I hope they do get a substantial sentence. We'll see what the judge gives.
Okay, he does. First of all, I don't believe he speaks on behalf of Albertans. I'll tell
no.
you that much. I wouldn't even say that I speak on behalf of Albertans, but as an Albertan whose politics are more in line with the general ethos of Albertans writ large, I would tell you that people would largely disagree with what he has to say. And did you notice he called them terrorists, but then what was their act of terrorism? Causing grief.
Right.
That was an act of terrorism against the sensibilities of a Canadian leftist. An inconvenience. You should go to jail for 7 years for an inconvenience.
What? You should go to jail for 7 years for invading the safe space of the jail that these precious Ottawa bureaucratic elites put
Yeah, their
themselves
gilded
in.
cage. The gilded
That's
cage.
right. They invaded the gilded cage of the Ottawa elites. That's what happened. But tell me you're a precious consumer of the mainstream media without telling me that you're a precious consumer of the mainstream media. But this is the crazy thing, is this guy's opinions are not just his alone. These are the opinions of everybody that watches the mainstream media. And God bless our rebel viewers for pulling yourselves out of that information vacuum and seeing the other
The
side of this
Infowar.
story. That's right. That's exactly right. So thanks so much for being on the good side, you guys, and for joining us here. But I for one would like to know who that guy is, just simply so we can deport him from the new country.
You just stay in Ottawa. Just stay there.
Yeah,
You'll
God
be
bless. God bless you, but goodbye.
you're more of a cultural fit for
Yes.
Ottawa.
Yeah.
We've got Ezra, a tweet from him. He said, the absurdity of the sentencing hearing is an echo chamber of that large abusive malpractice. This court has set aside 2 days with the possibility of a third for sentencing. It's absurd that this would take more than an hour. And then he goes on to say, prosecutor Siobhan Wetcher, I think. My Gaelic is not up to snuff. Siobhan Wetcher.
Yeah.
The convoy says the convoy's harm was vast, but never actually says what the vastness is. It was just like, oh, they caused grief. That's not terrorism. That's an inconvenience. You might not like it, but that's not even a crime necessarily. You'll never find a more woke lawyer arguing for a more thin-skinned, microaggressive, sensitive community. She says
Ooh.
7 years is reasonable, given that the court could theoretically do 10 years. And as I pointed out in a reply to Ezra, this Crown wants the judge to sentence Leach and Barber for the crime she wishes she could have charged them with,
That's right.
but didn't have the evidence to charge them with, i.e., as we heard from the last crazy person, terrorism. So what they're asking for is sentencing in line with terrorism, as I pointed out yesterday when we went through the Toronto 18 sentencing, for nonviolent criminal mischief, which normally would not see the inside of a jail cell. It's
that's
insane.
It's
They
insane.
want another kick at the can is what they're doing here.
Well, exactly. They're sentencing based on their opinion and not on the facts of the trial and the evidence that was produced at the trial. If we were to sentence them according to sentencing guidelines for mischief, okay, even though at the very, very far end, sentences can go up to 10 years for mischief, most people are not incarcerated at all for mischief. And here Tamara Lich has spent over 52 days in a cage for her participation in the Freedom Convoy. And before we went on the air, Chris Oldcorn pointed out that he's covered trials of child offenders, we'll say, abusers, who got 1 day, who got a sleepover camp, and they're asking for 8 years. Are they insane? And the answer, of course, is yes, because of course they are.
I would like to tell that Ottawa-washed Alberta crazy person that, okay, fine, I agree to your terms. We will sentence them as terrorists, which means they'll get 1 day in jail because that's what an ISIS bride got.
That's right. That's right. And so then they've got 51 days of additional incarceration.
Yeah, you owe her some time back.
The Crown is looking for their pound of flesh, and they are going to stop at nothing to get it. So here's to hoping and here's to praying that cooler heads prevail, and the judiciary can see this for what it is. And this is obviously a political persecution.
Yeah, let's go one more clip from Ezra here. He points out that the Ottawa police, who told him that his truck driving past the courthouse was trespassing, not stopping, just cutting a lap, that's trespassing. While the Ottawa police act as concierge and escorts for pro-Hamas protesters, many of whom aren't even Canadian citizens. No charges for them. But 7 years in prison is their demand for peaceful Canadian truckers. And then he links to a clip from Leviathan, who shows Looney Tunes, pro-terror supporters, just harassing people trying to have a meal down at the keg. Yeah, like look, this is insane.
Can you-
There's,
yeah.
do you see the baby stroller there too?
I was
Like,
just gonna say, this is a family restaurant where people are going for a nice, sweet little lunch with their baby, and here we have these lunatics screaming in their faces. Could you imagine, Sheila? Could you imagine what would? Oh, I mean, I would throw my basket of bread at them. I would, 100%.
Yeah, I might jump that little fence there. It wouldn't be enough to keep me away from them. And you've seen me, I'm spry. I can just
Oh,
do that in one jump.
She's bouncy. Our girl is bouncy.
We've got one more clip from Alexa. And she was talking to a lady from Ottawa. And I see this and I think, friends at the Alberta Prosperity Project, just show this on the screen at your education events talking about Alberta separation, because if you need a perfect encapsulation of the cultural differences between Westerners and Laurentians, this is it.
Ask you quickly, like, what did you think about the Freedom Convoy 2022?
The Freedom
Convoy. Yeah, what did you
It's
think of
kind
it?
of late in the day to be asking.
I know. It just,
It was a problem.
yeah. Can you
I
explain?
live around here. It was a problem. I had a lot of threats from people yelling at me for wearing a mask, people coming over in front of my house, ringing bells, yelling freedom, freedom, freedom,
Oh, no.
interfering with conversations with neighbors, because I live across from where they were staying. So it was intrusive and it was unnecessary. I don't think they accomplished anything. I think they were more of a laughing stock at the end. I think they've shown themselves for what they are. Also, I think the people who are the leaders were not just leaders of that group. I think initially they were anti-immigration. They were gun lobbyists. They belonged to a different group than the one they portrayed themselves as being part of here. And they hid behind the Freedom Convoy, I think, in order to pass on their views about, well, they're racists, you know, and nobody brought that up as much, but there was a lot
Right,
of
because it's not true.
racism going on up there near Parliament, and people of color were being harassed and called names. And this had nothing to do with freedom, as they call it. I think it's just that group was kind of like white supremacists.
Yeah, you know those white supremacist organizations that are often run by little Métis grandmas. You know how bad those are. They're just popping up everywhere. This lady is like, well, they never talked about enough about I guess the mainstream media never talked enough about how racist the Freedom Convoy was. That's because there was nothing to talk about because they
Right.
weren't. It was a multi-ethnic protest. It had nothing to do with any of that. They're from the gun lobby. You mean they're Westerners? Is that what you mean? So people who own firearms, that's not the gun lobby. She just was throwing out things.
All of
just
the all of
because.
all of the word salad that the mainstream media fed her, Sheila Gunn Reid, that is what she was doing. And
Yeah.
to say, like she said something about, these freedom convoyers were intrusive. What
Not a
was
crime.
what was the federal government to the entire country during all of COVID, if not intrusive. What do you think that they were protesting, lady? What do you think? Like, this is actually paging Jeffrey Rapp. Paging Jeffrey Rapp, play this at your town halls, because this is the exact kind of person that we're dealing with in Eastern Canada. Do we want that kind of person for the new country, Sheila? Do we?
You
Do
know,
we?
and you know, it answers her own question that she doesn't realize what she's posing. Because the question is, she says, they didn't show it enough. Well, that's because there was nothing to show.
Right.
And you would think in a demonstration that was entirely live streamed from thousands of different angles every
Yes.
single day, someone might have caught that.
Yeah.
It never was. Isn't
Yep.
that weird?
Isn't that interesting? And just for the record, for that lady, First Nations people participated in the Freedom Convoy. Black people participated. People from all races, religions, socioeconomic backgrounds.
Sikhs.
All of them came together under the umbrella of the Freedom Convoy to say we have had enough of the government intrusion into our lives. But again, this is the exact product. That woman is a perfect example of the product that's produced by only consuming the corrupt mainstream media in Canada. And in the new country, we're not going to fund the media. And so you won't get this large-scale brainwashing that we see with those last two clips.
You know,
So,
you know how I can tell that someone has been taken into leftist brainwashing, that they've been ideologically captured by the nonsense they see on the TV? It's when they use the phrase people of color non-ironically. Like normal people would just say minorities, right?
Right.
And if I use the phrase people of color, I always say to use the language of the left, people of
Right.
color. So I don't
Right.
want people to think that those are my own words.
Right.
Like, she's crazy. She's absolutely crazy. I should tell you,
Yeah.
Tamara Lich opted not to lean into her Indigenous heritage
Hmm.
to get a lesser sentence.
Hmm.
She made a conscious decision to say that would be divisive, that would be unfair, and I'm not going to do that.
Hmm. Well, there's a reason why we're going to erect bronze statues of her and Christ, and Big Red in the new country, and that's exactly why. She's a woman. She's a woman of incredible grace and insane fortitude. Insane fortitude, and you really couldn't find a better person, a better
Yeah.
human if you tried
Yeah,
than
just
Tamara Lich. So
so much dignity packed into one little.
true story. Yeah.
Uh,